The NAACP had the Image Awards a couple of days ago, Bobby David,
yes.
and I'm not a fan of the NAACP. I'm a former member. I founded a chapter in college, and I'm glad I did because I really learned how ineffective the NAACP was, how much they're controlled. But with that being said, I don't understand how they got money to put on an Image Award when we don't even own any institutions. So how does the NAACP, year in and year out, we have enough award shows, first of all. I'm so sick and tired of black people awarding themselves. I'm tired of we got BET Awards. We got the Vibe Awards, Soul Train Awards. We got Oscars. We got Emmys. There's enough awards in the black community. We don't need no NAACP Image Awards. But be that as it may, that they've decided to waste money on this award show. That's been going on for a while now, at least 20, 30 years. But with that being said, they gave Dwyane Wade's biological son, who is now a legal transgendered woman.
Female. He ain't a woman. He ain't but 14.
Right, right. Well, legally transgendered female got a Human Rights Award. And I'm trying to understand, how does a child get a Human Rights Award from the oldest civil rights organization in the country for getting a sex change, which, in my opinion, no child is supposed to be making a permanent, lifelong decision during their childhood. That biological boy is only about 15 years old.
Yeah, 14. And what's going to happen when he turns 22 and start liking women?
And guess what, Bobby David? I just saw the advertisement for a little biopic on the UK and how hundreds of transgendered children are now fighting to reverse their surgery.
Wow.
And reverse that. Yes, they don't want it no more. They've become adults, and they want to go back to being who God intended for them to be. That's the
buyer's remorse
story that we never hear about.
I have to say something. I had a textification. I don't mean a conversation, but a textification today online with this person. That they were saying that people should boycott the Roots Music Festival because it has Dave Chappelle and a couple of other people on there that had supposedly had said some unkind words about gays. And it was a black person. I said, look, it's really interesting that you find it appropriate to tell people to boycott black performers because they said something maybe anti-gay, but I don't see you saying boycott people that are being anti-black.
Absolutely. And that right there is a trend, Bobby David, that was given birth to by President Barack Hussein Obama. It was Barack Obama who deliberately took the spotlight off of black people issues and anti-black hate and put it on LGBTQ issues and LGBT hate. He did that. And, you know, when black people, I see a lot of us now waking up and recognizing that supporting all of these other so-called marginal groups and organizations, a lot of us are starting to wake up and realize this is just a trap. It's a distraction to get black people to stop worrying about what matters most to black people. And because we are so multicultural, which grows out of our collective self-hatred, black people are always ever ready and willing to lend a hand to somebody else's cause. But none of these other groups ever lend a hand to our cause. Most LGBTQs are anti-black. They are just as racist as any other white person.
I said that.
I'm telling you, the black homosexuals know that they are an afterthought in the LGBT movement's agenda. In fact, black homosexuals and lesbians are to the LGBTQ movement what black people are to the Democratic Party. It is the same relationship. You are an afterthought. We don't care about you, okay? And the only time we call on you is when we need to use you for something. That's the only reason that they call on them. And I also believe that it is an absolute contradiction to call LGBTQs a minority group. I still need somebody to help me understand how can being white and gay or white and trans make you a minority group. If you are a privileged white male in America,
Still got the privileges.
Being gay take away your privilege? It doesn't. It doesn't. If you are a white woman in America, being a lesbian does not take away your privilege. And because we know that the LGBTQ movement, like the women's rights movement, was financed, funded, and operated by the CIA and the FBI, these are government-funded groups. How can they be a minority?
With the objective of breaking up the family.
With the objective of breaking up the family. In fact, one of the reasons why the CIA, well, we know why the FBI funded the LGBT movement. That was to eclipse the black civil rights movement in the aftermath of Dr. King's murder. That's why those gay riots that took place, the Stonewall riots, they only come, maybe 2 years after Dr. King's murder. It was not a long time. So they didn't hesitate to make sure they blocked out the black agenda with the gay agenda. So that's why they gave birth to the gay agenda, to suffocate the black agenda. And then the reason they gave birth to the woman's rights agenda was to get the women out the home. Three main reasons why they created the women's rights movement. Number one, get women out the home because they needed more workers. American capitalism, the corporations, the businesses, they were running out of labor. And they didn't want to bring the Mexicans in. So they said, if we're running out of labor, what are we going to do to get more workers? They said, we got to put the women to work. But what we're going to do is we're going to propagandize this to make it look like the woman is being oppressed. Not to say she's not, but they didn't care about that. Their agenda was not helping women escape chauvinism. Their agenda was being able to exploit the labor of women for capitalism. So they painted this nice, rosy picture to women that you have a right to work, you have a right to a career, you have a right to the pursuit of anything you want, just like your man does, and they pay no attention to what would happen to the children once the women got out the house. And Baba David, it's no coincidence that social media sprang up right after they got the women out the house. All this was organized. This was a collective, systemic war to get the women out of the home so the government could control the minds of the children. So when you look at the world today, not only America, not only black America, but when you look at the world today, the husband is pursuing his dreams, the wife is pursuing her dreams, and the children are at home all day long after school on social media being indoctrinated and brainwashed. That is exactly how the power structure wanted it. Think about this for a minute, Baba David. If they didn't get the woman out the house, so the first purpose of the women's movement was to get the women working. They needed their labor. They needed to exploit their labor, and they had to make it look good for the women. So that's number one. We need y'all to work because we're running out of workers. That's number one. They also wanted to be able to tax the women as well so they can use that revenue for other things. So it was about turning the woman into a slave wage earner. It was not about her liberation. Number two, to get the woman away from the child. Because the woman, the mother, was always the guard dog. She was the protector. I take back guard dogs. Not as good as
first line of defense, right?
She was always the protector. You had to get through the mother to get through the child, as you do with any living organism. The mother often protects while the father is out hunting and earning a living.
That's right.
Right. So they had to get the mother away from the child so they could indoctrinate the child. And then the third reason for the women's lib movement in the black community in particular was to turn the black woman against the black man, to make the black man economically, socially, politically irrelevant to the black community as a whole, but to black women in particular, and they have succeeded. Even right now, when you look at all the back and forth going on between black men and black women, all of this, Baba David, are the aftershock of this woman empowerment movement, and our children are suffering as a result of it. I'm not saying women shouldn't work. I believe women got a right to a career, to a business, hold public office, to be a clergy person in the church. I have no issue with a woman in leadership at all. I can serve with a woman in leadership. I can serve over a woman in leadership. I can serve under a woman in leadership. I don't have an issue. But with that being said, we have to balance this out so the children always have an adult at home. So if the man is going to work for 5 years and the woman going to work for 5 years, and y'all going to do a year and year, or somebody going to run a business from home, somebody needs to be home with these children. Because guess what, Baba David? This childhood transgender war against our kids, where they're brainwashing our kids into getting sex surgery as children. I can't even believe we're having this conversation. I cannot believe that there's a such thing as childhood transgenderism. But with that as it is, Baba David, this never happened. This never happened if you never get the women out the house. There's no way they would be able to indoctrinate the children like this if you never get the women out the house. And the second thing I'm going to say, they would never be able to push childhood transgenderism on our children if we ever gave up our independent black schools. Two big mistakes we made as a people. We gave up our independent black schools, and we allowed no parent to be at home. I don't want to say the woman had to work. It could have been the woman who needed to work and the man who needed to stay home. But removing both parents from the home was a big mistake that Black America is suffering from.
But I would say that, when they threw us in the dirt, they got dirty too, because their families are breaking up as well. Their women have become what they wanted to so-called independent and not needing their own man and run around with less morals themselves. It ain't like it's just black women.
That's true, but I'll tell you this, Baba David. In my observation and in my study, I noticed that there's a difference between the white feminist and the black feminist. Rarely will you see the white feminist deride white males en masse over social media or in the news. You don't see that. Rarely, even on YouTube, rarely will you find a white woman just categorically dismissing all white males, calling them useless, no good, they need to be exterminated. You don't see that. In other words, the white woman may be a feminist and she has her issues with the white man, but she has never criminalized the white man the way that black women have criminalized the black man. And I would also say the way that black men have criminalized the black woman. You ain't never seen no other man in this country. Yeah. You ain't never seen a Chinese man, Latino man, Arab, East Indian, European Jew. No man except the black man has ever publicly ridiculed and denounced his woman the way black men are doing black women and the way black women are doing black men. And the sad thing about it, Baba David, is feeding right into the LGBTQ agenda for black children. We're feeding right into it because public school and media are telling our kids to be gay or get a sex change. That's their recipe for love. Okay? Get a sex change or find somebody of the same gender. And then they look at us, the heterosexuals, and it's like the heterosexuals can't get along. So if the black heterosexuals can't get along, maybe what the government is telling me is what I should do. Maybe what my teacher is telling me in the classroom is what I should do. And I would argue that we are doing a better job of turning black boys and girls against traditional black love than even mainstream media and public school is doing with this back and forth fighting.
Well, I just want to make a disclaimer that, we're not gay bashing at all. We're just telling the truth as it is. Just tell the truth as it is.
Or harm to anybody.
That's right.
But we have to have a serious conversation.
That's right.
About what's best for black America. That's it.
That's number one.